Alright everyone, prepare for a lot of uploads because number one, create space. I'll get to that last because in my opinion it's the most important because it directly involves me. But there are a lot of stories anyway to cover, and the first is actually, it's trending right now and involves John Boehner. He just can't stop doing this sort of stuff. He's sort of being like Hillary Clinton. I think Hillary Clinton and John Boehner and some others are realizing that the way to maneuver around the modern media has nothing to do with ingratiating yourself or being sane or having good ideas. It has to do with just being loud and saying stupid shit. Now, this is sort of a less talented version of what Trump does. He does it in a more strategic sense, I feel. John Boehner is like a monkey that keeps pressing a button that causes a lever to come down and hit it in the balls. So John Boehner comes out and says, well, there's no GOP, it's taking a nap right now, it's the party of Trump. Somehow this is a problem. And I'm thinking to myself, John Boehner is really one to speak with regards to Republican strategy. Oh, you mean that John Boehner that oversaw the Republican Party's near total demise by constantly obstructing and doing nothing? For years and years, what did the Republican Party do? They simply said no to Obama, and that's basically all they did. They weren't willing to discuss, they weren't willing to make deals or negotiate like Trump has shown willingness to do. I wonder why he's having problems. Could it be the never-Trump holdovers of the neocon era that haven't been swept away by the current paradigm? I hope more of them are. I'd rather see Democrats, I'd rather see progressive Democrats than neocon Republicans hold those seats. The same as I'd rather some fucking alt-right candidate replace a neoliberal establishmentarian. At least these people will comprehend the concept of change being necessary within government. Then they can hash out what form it takes. Hopefully it's populism or libertarianism, of course. I think I'm not going to hold my breath on these things, unfortunately. John Boehner is known for literally doing nothing, breaking down and crying at random moments. He was a fucking embarrassment and ends up leaving. He's like, ah, fuck this. I'm leaving politics because I'm tired of being everyone's whipping boy. But the thing is, Boehner kind of deserved it. Now, there were times he was kind of likable, he's kind of like a stumbly drunk, I guess, or something, but he didn't do a good job leading the GOP. Now, you'd want to know why it's the Trump party right now, because think of what the GOP was prior to Trump arriving. First, you got Ronald Reagan. His paradigm ends and they, jerry-rig basically Herbert Walker, his VP, in there because Herbert Walker says, hey, the Bushes want to have a president title. Herbert Walker gets in, does a shitty job. He bungles in Iraq, he bungles by puking on the Japanese prime minister, he bungles with taxes, he bungles with the economy. He doesn't know what he's doing. He's a moron. He comes out and says, well, I don't know if atheists should even be considered citizens. One of the most divisive presidents ever, and yet people look back, people who have this fear-mongering sense about Trump, they look back, oh, Herbert Walker's such a cute, cuddly guy. No, he wasn't cute and cuddly, he was a cutthroat. That's what he was. The fact that he's geriatric and wheelchair-bound now is for the best of all humanity. Herbert Walker does a shitty job. What happens? The Democrats come roaring to life, and they get William Jefferson Clinton. William Jefferson Clinton probably would not have been elected had it not been for Herbert Walker doing a shitty job. And Bill Clinton's presidency was marred by almost constant scandal and mafioso-style politics, as well as various foreign policy problems. North Korea, oh, we're going to give you uranium, just promise not to make weapons. His presidency wasn't good, but he looked great by comparison, and compared to what comes next when the GOP finally gets another shot, which they only pull off because of Florida's Supreme Court anyway, which, yeah, it's a sore spot for the Democrats, pretty funny. He comes along, he manages to outdo his daddy. He only gets reelected because he starts several wars. Let's, not mince words. It's why he beat John Kerry. It is why he won re-election, not that the alternative would have been any better. Honestly, John Kerry would have done such a shitty job as president, probably the Republicans would have shifted the paradigm, a decade early, but let's leave that alone. W comes along. What's W known for? Bungles Iraq, bungles Afghanistan. Totally fucks up with the Katrina response, which is ultimately what collapsed his presidency. It wasn't Iraq. He was holding steady in the upper 30s, low 40s. He was mediocre as far as approval. He falls to sub 30 right after Katrina. Because people on TV are seeing people, for days. They're sitting out there in the hot sun with no access to goods, sitting on their roofs like, hey, where is the disaster response? Private citizens have to get involved. One thing you can say about Trump when that hurricane hit down there in, what wasn't it, the Houston hurricane, at least there was a response. Much better than Katrina. No. George W. was a total asshole, basically. And those of us who were alive at the time, I know increasingly some of the youngest viewers probably, they weren't really there. They weren't really with it. They're like 5 or something. When Bush took office, you don't remember much about it. Trust me, it was a hellhole. So Bush does such a bad job that the GOP then collapses and Obama gets elected. Again, Obama never would have been considered viable. Almost no political experience, inordinately young, kind of socialistic in some of his mentalities, although I don't go out into the he's a Muslim socialist from Kenya sort of stuff. That's bullshit, and that was invented by the Clinton campaign, and Trump, realized it was a winner, and people then decided to blame him for inventing these terms. The GOP, for the entirety of Obama's regime, fucks up. Under John Boehner, too, no less. What does the GOP do? They get a shot at it. The Tea Party comes surging in and takes the House by massive amounts. What do? Instead of trying to use that pressure for some constructive purpose and make suggestions as to what should be done with the country and try to work with Obama, instead they just say, no, we're not going to work with you at all. We will do nothing, you will do nothing. For the next 6 years, fuck off. That's basically what the GOP did. Why do you think that they lost their chance to be elected when they were running against him? Who did the GOP think were good candidates to put up against Obama? John McCain, who now is the darling of the GOP because he says, I'm not really a fan of Trump, and I have a brain tumor, and I was tortured once. I'm an all-American hero. No, he's not. He's an asshole. He's a warmongering asshole, and the Republican Party is trying to hold him up on a fucking pedestal because he said, no, I'm not a fan of Trump. Okay, this shows you GOP intelligence right here. Yeah, the Republican Party is known as the dumb party, and the Democrats as the evil party. I think both of them are pretty dumb and evil at the moment. I think there are a few people who stand out. Rand Paul's intelligent and sane. I think Donald Trump is intelligent and sane, despite the fact that I don't agree with everything that he's doing. I've got more positive things to say about him than virtually all other Republicans, though. Other than Ron and Rand Paul and a few others, maybe Amash. There are a few other people. It's like when the media was going after Trump the other day saying, Trey Gowdy is attacking the president. No, actually what Trey Gowdy was saying is he thinks that Trump regrets that he put Sessions in there without asking him, you might not want to recuse yourself in the biggest case that you're going to have to deal with. But, the media totally misconstrued it to the point where it was literal fake news. It wasn't even real what they were claiming. So bullshit. So the Republican Party's under Boehner, fuck up repeatedly, and then, Paul Ryan gets in, he's not doing any better. Trump comes along and manages to solidify not only the Republican base, but draw in a bunch of those blue-collar workers from the Rust Belt and absolutely smash an opponent that was thought invulnerable, that would have been the absolute hellish nightmare of the GOP at any other election. They would have basically bent over and said, we're not even going to bother running an election campaign because Hillary Clinton will destroy us. But he manages to defeat her, to stave off the blue menace, so to speak. And now it's looking increasingly like, because his approval is creeping upward, he's making headway in so many fields, the economy, taxes, jobs, North Korea, he's doing well. Because of this fact and because he's willing to negotiate, it looks like there won't be a blue wave. The chance of that is rapidly dissipating. I'm sorry, the Democrats are setting themselves up to be really, really upset after the midterms. When they don't hold the House or the Senate after the midterms, which is my current running prediction based on my current knowledge of the polling involved, they're going to have some problems. They're going to end up having no choice but to participate in the paradigm shift. By the way, losing in the midterms, Democrats, heed me good. Maintaining the underdog status is the only way you have a chance in 2020 against Trump. If you retake the House, the neoliberals will run your party into the ground and do what Boehner's Congress did. We've seen it before. It happens over and over again. You'll get cocky, they'll get a big fucking dick about it, and they'll simply obstruct Trump. He will then run against Congress, which invariably has lower approval than the executive, and he will win on that ticket in coordination with, hey, I'm good on jobs, I lowered your taxes, I'm trying to solve foreign policy problems, all they're doing is obstructing me every step of the way. That's a winning ticket. That gives him the White House if that happens. especially since the Democratic candidate would be of Hillary Clinton 2.0. Yeah, what a wonderful idea. Good job. Yeah, put that, Trump's approval is going to rise by a good 5 points once the Democrats nominate a candidate anyway. That's what always happens. Obama's approval was, fairly low, and then he started getting compared to idiot Mitt Romney, and his approval suddenly rose because suddenly he didn't look so bad. People started seeing him in light of a comparison with another person instead of just a generic... It's the Kasich effect. When people said John Kasich polls above Hillary Clinton, he's the only Republican that does, that's because no one knew about him. He was the stand-in for generic Republican versus known Democrat. So you know about the Democrat scandals, but you don't know about Kasich's scandals. He doesn't have any as far as you're concerned because you've never heard his name before. You don't know anything about him. You never looked up his record, and you know he's not going to win. So yeah, he seems stellar by comparison to Hillary Clinton. That's going to happen in the next election. The Democrats are going to scurry around stabbing each other in the back, weaken their own party. A neoliberal will shaft a progressive. They will lose the youth vote and the blue-collar vote again, and they will lose in 2020. That's my prediction, if you manage to retake either the House or Senate. If not, you might have a smoother process. Some young upstart Democrat centrist might rise up and be able to re-solidify the party. By the way, that would be a platform potentially I'd be willing to vote for, assuming there's any good about it. You're living in the internet era, so John Boehner doesn't know anything about what he's talking about. It's obvious. An elected official, a very smart man, academically trained, everything under the sun, he still just doesn't fucking get it. He wants to believe that it's still like the Boomer era or something. The GOP can just cling to its shitty platform of the past. We can still be the party of Reagan because talking about the sort of things Reagan did will really resonate with today's youth. That's not how it works. It doesn't work. Oh, Star Wars, yeah, whoa, wonderful. Détente, no. That's not the way things work anymore. You're talking about something that happened. You still have it fresh in your mind that era is the current era, that nothing's changed. You're making the same mistake that Hillary Clinton did, thinking it was the 90s. Wow, guys, it's so cool. Have you heard about this new band called the Goo Goo Dolls? Whoa, Madonna just released a new hit single. Whoa, that's basically what you're doing. It doesn't work. Stop getting outdated and thinking that other people are making mistakes because they try something different. John Boehner was shitty when he was in Congress. That's about all. Peace out.